Welcome back, dear friends, to your daily dose of ancient wisdom. Today, we continue our reading of Tritiya Skanda of Srimad Bhagavatam Mahapurana, Discourse 12, The Multiplication of Creation. Sage Maitreya continued, Thus I have told you, O Vidura, the glory of the Supreme Spirit under the name of time. Now hear from me how Brahma, the repository of Vedas, proceeded with the work of creation. To begin with, Brahma, the first maker, evolved the 5 varieties of ignorance, namely tamas, which is ignorance about one's own self, moha, the self-identification with the body, mahamoha, the craving for enjoyment, tamisra, which is anger, and andhata misra, looking upon death as one's own end. He was, however, not pleased with himself to see the most wicked creation. Through his mind, purified by meditation on the Lord, Brahma, the self-born, then evolved a creation different from the above, namely sages Sanaka, Sanandana, Sanatana, and Sanat Kumara, who refrained from all worldly activities and were urdhvaretas or lifelong celibates. Please note, Urdhvareta literally means he whose generative fluid has begun to flow upwards instead of downwards, as in the case of the ordinary men. We find mention in our scriptures of hosts of rishis who had mastered their sexual impulse so thoroughly that the flow of their generative fluid has turned upwards, a thing unknown in other parts of the world. This shows to what inconceivable length our forefathers had developed the art of preserving the vital fluid and utilizing it towards the noblest end of God realization, as per Bhagavad Gita. Brahma, the self-born, said to these sons, Dear sons, do you beget offsprings? They, however, were little inclined to do so, since they had set their heart on Lord Vasudeva as the highest goal and had taken a vow of renunciation as a road to liberation. Thus, disregarded by his own sons, who had flouted his command, Brahma strove to curb the fierce anger generated in him. But notwithstanding his effort to restrain it by force of reason, the passion of Brahma forthwith broke through the middle of his brows in the form of a boy of dark red hue. The body, who was no other than Lord Rudra, the eldest born of the gods, cried, Give me names, O Creator, and also allow me abodes, Father of the world. Intending to comply with the prayer of the boy, the worshipful Brahma, who was born of the lotus, replied in kind tones, Do not cry, I shall presently do it for you. Since you wept as a frightened child, O chief of gods, hence people will call you by the name of Rudra, lit one who weeps. The heart, the senses, the vital air, ether, the air, fire, water, earth, the sun and the moon, and Ashtapanans, these are the abodes I have already assigned to you. You will be further called Manu, Manu, Mahinasa, Mahan, Siva, Ritadhvaja, Ugrareta, Bhava, Kala, Vamadeva, and Dhritavarta, according to the abodes assigned to you. Dhi, Vritti, Usana, Uma, Niyut, Sarpi, Ila, Ambika, Iravati, Sudha, and Diksa, O Rudra, shall be your wives, who will be called Rudrinis as a class. Accept these names and abodes and consorts too, and beget through these numerous progeny, since you are a Prajapati, a god presiding over creation. Thus enjoined by his father Brahma, Lord Nilalohita, so called because of his dark red hue, begot progeny resembling himself in strength, appearance, and disposition. Brahma, the lord of created beings, was alarmed to see numberless hosts of Rudras, the gods presiding over destruction, procreated by Rudra, devouring the creation on all sides. Beget no more of such progeny, O chief of gods, who are burning with their fearful eyes all the four quarters, including myself. Practice austere penance that may bring happiness to all living beings. God bless you. Through penance alone, you will be able to create this universe as it was before in the kalpa preceding the last pralaya. And through penance alone can a man easily attain the Lord, who is supreme effulgence, nay, who is beyond sense perception and dwells in the heart of all living beings. Maitreya continued. Thus instructed by Brahma the self-born, Rudra said, "All right," and taking leave of the Lord of speech and going round him as mark of respect, he retired to the woods with intent to practice austere penance. Equipped with the creative energy of the Lord, Brahma now contemplated further creation and presently produced 10 more sons who were instrumental in multiplying the creation, namely Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Bhrigu, Vasishtha, and Daksha, Narada being the 10th. Maitreya continued. Thus instructed by Brahma, the self-born Rudra said, "All right," and taking leave of the Lord of speech and going round him as a mark of respect, he retired to the woods with an intent to practice austere penance. Equipped with the creative energy of the Lord, Brahma now contemplated further creation and presently produced 10 more sons who were instrumental in multiplying the creation, namely Marichi, Atri, Angira, Pulastya, Pulaha, Kratu, Bhrigu, Vasishtha, Daksha, and Narada being the 10th. Narada sprang up from Brahma's lap, Daksha from his thumb, Vasishtha from his breath, Bhrigu from his skin, Kratu was evolved from his hand, Pulaha emanated from his navel, the sage Paulastya from his ears, Angira from his mouth, Atri from his eyes, and Marichi came out of his mind. Dharma, the god of virtue, from whom was descendant Lord Narayana himself in the form of twin brothers Nara and Narayana, appeared from his right breast. Even so, Adharma, the spirit presiding over unrighteousness, from whom sprang the god of death, the terror of the whole world, appeared from his back. From his heart sprang up Kama, the god of love, anger from his brows, the greed from his lower lip, Vak, the goddess of speech, from his mouth, the oceans from his penis, and Niritti, the chief of Rakshasas and the regent of southwest, the spirit presiding over sin, from his anus. The sage Kardama, the spouse of Devahuti, the mother of Lord Kapila, and a master of his self, was evolved from his shadow. In this way, the whole of this creation was evolved either from the mind or from the body of Brahma, the maker of the universe. Vidura, we are told that eager to push on the work of creation, Brahma, the self-born, fell in love with his own daughter, Vak, who was most handsome and captivating, but she had no carnal desire in her. Finding that their father had set his heart on unrighteousness, his sons Marichi and other sages remonstrated with him out of the filial action. It is strange that you, master of yourself, should seek to copulate with your own daughter, unable to control your passion. It is something which was never done by your predecessors in office, nor will be done hereafter by your successors or Brahmas that are going to follow you. This is not something praiseworthy even for the all-powerful or perceptor of the world. For it is by following the conduct of such people that the world finds its way to happiness. obeisance to the Lord, who by his own light of wisdom manifested this universe which already lay dormant in him. May he protect the cause of righteousness. Brahma, the lord of Prajapatis, felt much ashamed to see his own sons, the lords of created beings, thus pleading him before his very eyes, and immediately cast off his body. The four quarters picked up that fearful body, which continued in the form of fog, also known by the name of darkness. Once when Brahma, the creator, was pondering how should he be able to create the worlds as an organic whole, as before the four Vedas issued from his four mouths, one from each. Even so, the four supplementary Vedas, or logic, and other allied sciences such as the dialects, Mimamsha, and so on, the functions of the four priests required to officiate at sacrificial performances, the elaborate procedure of performing the sacrifices, the four pillars of virtue, the four ashramas or stages of life, and the duties assigned to each also appeared from his mouths. Please note, even though Brahma, who had been commissioned by the Lord to carry on his own work of creation and has been spoken of above as the first seer, Adikavi, or Vedagarbha, a repository of Vedas, and Vedamurti, Vedas personified, and who has not only been blessed by the Supreme Lord never to fall a prey of delusion while proceeding with the work of creation, but had been admitted by him as having known his truth, could not evidently have stooped to such depths of moral degradation. The incident is only intended to illustrate the blindness of passion and to justify the note of warning sounded by our wise forefathers not to see even one's own mother, sister, or daughter when she was all alone. We read elsewhere in Srimad Bhagavata itself about this. One should never remain alone, even with his own mother, sister, or daughter. Powerful are the senses which lead astray even a learned man. Sage Maitreya replied, Brahma brought out the four Vedas called the Rig Veda, the Yajur Veda, the Sama Veda, and Atharva Veda severally from his mouths, facing the east, south, west, and north. And in the same order did he create Shastra, the duty of the priest called Hota, Laya, the duty of Advaryu, Stutissoma, the duty of Udghata, and Praschita, the duty of Brahma. In the same way, he released Ayurveda, the science of medicine, Dhanurveda, the science of archery, Gandharva Veda, the science of music, and Stapatya Veda, the science of architecture, severally from his easterly and other mouths. The all-seeing Brahma then discharged from all his four mouths the class of literature known by the names of Itihasa and Purana, which is recognized as the fifth Veda. Similarly, he sent out a pair of sacrifices from each of his easterly and other mouths, namely Sodashi and Utkata from the eastern, Purishi and Agnistoma from the southern, Aptroyama and Atirata from the western, and Vajapeya and Gosava from his northern mouth. In the same order, he evolved the four pillars of virtue, namely Vidya, purity acquired through knowledge of God, Dana, charity promoted by compassion, Tapas, austerity, and Satya, or truthfulness, as well as the four ashramas, or stages of life, and the mode of life prescribed for each. The Savitra, a vow of purity undertaken for a period of 3 days following the ceremony of Upanayana or investiture with the sacred thread for japa of Gayatri. The Prajapatya, a vow of celibacy undertaken for a period of 1 year. The Brahma, a vow of celibacy undertaken for the entire period of the prosecuting the study of Vedas. And the Brahat, a vow of lifelong celibacy, are the four modes of life prescribed for a brahmachari or a religious student. Even so, Varta, agriculture and other vocations sanctioned by the Shastras, Sanchaya, officiating as sacrificial performances, Salinila, living on whatever may be got without asking, Siloncha, living on food grains found scattered and gleaned from the fields after the harvest has been reaped, or from the grain market when the stock has either been sold or removed. These are the four means of livelihood prescribed for a Brahmana householder. Similarly, Vaikhanasas, those living on the produce of uncultivated land, Valakhilyas, those who gave up the old stock of food grains on receiving a new one, Audumbaras, those who live on fruits, etc., brought excessively from the quarter which they happened to face when quitting their bed after a night's rest, and Penapas, those who live on fruits dropped from trees or their own accord, are the four types of Vanaprasthas or anchorites dwelling in the forest in their third stages of their life. And the Kutika, he who lives in thatched hut at one place, fully observing the rules and conduct prescribed for a recluse. The Baudhaka, he who recites the rules of conduct as of secondary importance and accords a superior place to knowledge. The Hamsas, he who treads the path of knowledge, and Nishkriya or Paramahamsa, he who has attained spiritual wisdom and Jivan Mukti or liberation in this very life. These are the four types of sannyasis or recluse, those who have renounced their hearth and home in fourth or last stage of their life. Even so, the four branches of knowledge, namely Avinisiki, the knowledge of spirit, which is conducive to liberation; Trayi, the knowledge of the ritual, which leads to enjoyment in the heaven; Vrata, the technical knowledge of agriculture, commerce, and others; Dandaniti, the political science; and the four Vyakhritis or mystical formulae uttered at the beginning of the Gayatri, namely Buh, Bhuva, Suva, and the combination of the three, namely Bhur Bhuva Suva, issued from his mouth in the same order, while the Pranava or the mystic symbol Om flowed from the cavity of his heart. Again, the Vedic meter of Usnik appeared from the hair of the body of the all-powerful Creator, and Gayatri, another Vedic meter, from his skin. The Tristub meter emerged from his flesh, Anustub from his sinews, and Jagati from the bones of the Lord of Creation. From his marrow emanated Pankti, while Brihati came from his breath. Similarly, his consciousness came to be the hard consonants, while his body itself passed by the names of the vowels. His Indriyas are termed as the sibilants or the sounds represented by the letters sa, 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 and ha, while his physical strength goes by the name of antastabs or semi-vowels, the sounds represented by the letters ya, ra, la, and va. And the seven notes of the gamut Sajja, Rashabha, Gandhara, Madhyama, Panchama, Davita, and Nisada, proceeding from the recreation of the Lord of created beings. Being Sabda Brahma, Veda or sound personified, Brahma is manifest in the form of Vaikhariki, or articulate utterance, and unmanifest in the form of pranava. Beyond him shines the Supreme, who pervades everything as Brahma, the infinite, and is possessed of various potencies as the Almighty Lord. Having cast off his previous body, which has been defiled by sinful thought and which continued to exist in the form of fog, Brahma now assumed another body distinct from the former and set his heart once more on creation. Realizing in his heart that the creation had not expanded even at the hands of the seers Marichi and others who were endowed with extraordinary powers, he thought once more within himself, O Vidura, oh, how strange that even though I am ever up and doing, my progencies are not multiplying. Surely an adverse fate stands in my way. Brahma always did what was desirable at the moment. While he was thus waiting for a more propitious providence, Brahma's body became twofold. A human body, whether male or female, has come to be known by the name of Kaya. Realizing in his heart that the creation had not expanded even at the hands of seers, Marichi and others, who were endowed with extraordinary powers, he thought once more within himself, O Vidura, of how strange that even though I am ever up and doing, my pregnancies are not multiplying. Surely an adverse fate stands in my way. Brahma, always as did what was desirable at the moment. While he was thus waiting for a more propitious providence, Brahma's body became twofold. A human body, whether male or female, has come to be known by the name of Kaya in Sanskrit only because it originally belonged to Brahma. These two distinct parts turned out to be a man and a woman. Of these two forms, the male was Swayambhuva Manu, the first independent sovereign of the entire globe, and the female came to be known, the spouse of that noble soul, and was called as Satarupa. The creation then multiplied through copulation of Swayambhuva Manu. Two begot 5 issues through Satarupa. They were Priyavrata and Uttanapada, and 3 daughters, Akuti, Devahuti, and Prasuti by names. O most pious Vidura, he gave away Akuti, the eldest one, to Ruchi, a Lord-created beings. The middle one, Devahuti, to sage Kardama, another Prajapati, and Prasuti, the youngest, to Daksha, one of the 10 sons of Brahma enumerated in the previous verses. The pregnancy of these 3 girls filled the whole universe. Thus ends the 12th discourse in the book 3 of the great and glorious Bhagavata Purana, otherwise known as Paramahamsa Samhita. Thank you.